I woke up missing home a lot today. Like this morning, I don't know what it was. I just woke up missing my wife and my dogs. It's like, that's the hardest part of this challenge. My wife and I, we don't have children. We have 3 dogs. They're our dog babies. We've been apart for like a week the most if I go visit my mom
so
or whatever.
Hitting that point.
Because like usually I'm home by now. It would be very nice to see them soon, but not yet. Not yet. Let's do this.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast. I'm your host, Rich Herrera. This is your place for all things food and pop culture. So thanks for hitting the play button on my little podcast. Just a couple of reminders. Just follow me on socials at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content, anywhere you get your socials, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, X. I don't know. We're still calling it Twitter, whatever. And you make sure you follow there and make sure you hit like, subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts so that you'll know when new episodes are dropping. Programming reminders. This is our continued coverage of Top Chef season 22, episode 3, which I need to correct myself. I keep saying just Top Chef Canada. It is Destination Canada, not to be mistaken for the actual Top Chef Canada. So my bad. And joining me every week, Top Chef Season 21 finalist, Chef Savannah Miller. Chef Savannah, thank you again for your time this morning and coming on the pod. Great to have you back.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get into this one.
I know. This is such a lot of, I mean, we had a downward spiral of a chef that I don't think I've ever seen in my life on the show. We have a shocking ending in LCK, so we'll get all into that. So looking forward to it. So just a quick amuse-bouche impressions of the episode. What'd you think?
I thought some of this was a little PTSD for me. Only because, like, not to jump ahead, but like in my finale, my ice cream didn't set.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So, again, not to get too far ahead, but to get into some of that later will be interesting. I think that was like walking away. That was my biggest takeaway, was like, oof. We saw it go 2 different ways, kind of.
Yeah. I thought I thought it was a great episode. Massimo, again, just consistently being my favorite chef on the show, and I can't wait to see more of him. He's so funny, and he's so I feel like they'll keep him on personality. It's because he could have gone home this week, but I mean, obviously somebody else was way worse. But I mean, it was just so funny the way he was defending himself on judges' table, which we'll get into. But overall, I thought it was a really great Quickfire, and we'll talk about that. And the elimination challenge I thought was really interesting. So let's jump right in. We have our opening, our cold open. We have Shuai saying he's missing family, and I want to ask you, like, how long is filming of Top Chef? I've heard it's anywhere between 2.5 months, something like that. But how long is it?
I would say that's pretty spot on. I mean, obviously, it might be a little different depending how long you're in the competition, but I think in general you can commit to like 2 months. And again, it might be longer, it might be less, but in general, I think that's a safe bet. But it's a long time and you're not really getting the chance to talk to people. It's like maybe once a week or twice a week. And it's obviously like very limited interaction. So I think it is difficult. It always makes me nervous starting out with a phone call home.
Yeah. And how long for you was it before you kind of started experiencing homesickness, and how did you persevere through that as the competition went on, especially the longer you're there?
Yeah, I think so. I had like a really early flight. I flew out on my birthday. And I flew at like maybe 6 a.m. So I would say like 7 a.m. I probably started getting really homesick.
Oh, wow. Really hit quick for you, huh?
It was really quick. So for me, it was like, it hit really hard very fast. And then I think I settled into this new environment and I was like, okay, like I can kind of adjust to my surroundings. But for me at first, it was a lot. And then it tapered and I was ready to go by the end of it for sure. But like, it was the immediate, like, I'm the type of person that's like, let me go to sleep and be gone when I wake up. Like I can't, saying goodbye at the airport was insane for me. So that was really hard. But then I kind of got used to it, but it's a long time.
Yeah. It's 2.5 months, 2 months away
Your
from
support
family.
system.
Yeah. And like for Shuai, and I'm sure for many of the chef testants, that's the longest you'll ever be away from like your spouse or your loved ones and stuff like that. Was it that the longest time you've been away from your fiance at the time?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, anybody. I think like, and even if I remember thinking like, even if I come home quickly, worst case scenario, I was like, it's still a long time. And like packing for, you're ideally like, well, best case scenario, I'm gone for this, many weeks. And when you're packing for that, and like, it's just a weird mind thing, you're like
Yeah.
picking up all your stuff and all your tools and everything that you use every day. And just knowing that like you're going to be stripped of like, not your identity, but like all these things that we hold so near and dear, like our phones and our electronics. And it's just a lot to be like put into that environment.
Yeah. So I'm glad they let you guys have video phone calls home from time to time, just to kind of
Yeah.
keep in touch with everybody. And I'm sure there's a producer right there over your shoulder saying, don't say this, or don't say that.
100.
But it's good that you
Yeah.
guys are in touch.
Yeah. I think it's definitely nice. I feel like you can see after people get their phone calls, everybody's like, okay, what are we doing now? We're
Yeah.
happier now. What can we do?
They get that little mental and spiritual, emotional recharge, and they're ready to go for the challenge. Like let's hit it, So
Yeah.
that's good. That's good.
Morale is back.
Yeah, morale is back. So let's get right to the quickfire. I was a big fan of this quickfire. So it was to make a version of a Jamaican patty. It
Yeah.
was an homage to the Jamaican immigrant population that kind of settled there in Canada during the 60s and 70s. They had to make a dough from scratch, which is wild for a quickfire. So it was a little bit different. So they got 15 minutes to make a dough from scratch. Then they took an hour break, so let the dough rest, and then 30 minutes to make the filling and complete the patty. When you saw this challenge, were you like, "Oh man, I'm glad I didn't have that to do for my season"?
Um, I do think like the making the dough is the second I was like, oh God, it's Jamaican patties. And like if you're going, like you were preparing for that, right? Like you're doing your research, so you probably have like something in your back pocket, a ratio or something like that. But like nobody wants to make a dough. And nobody wants to make a dough in 15 minutes. And like I think I'm glad it's a quick fire, but also in the same vein, like it's a quick fire. So that inherently is harder. I'm glad I wasn't there to do it, but they were nice enough to give them that time. Like for it to rest and chill back down is you can't really do it without that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And making a dough and baking in general is so exact. Like you can't. It's not like cooking a savory dish where it's a pinch of this and a pinch of that, and you can kind of you can go a little bit outside of exact measurements, but with baking, you can't
Yeah.
do that. It's got to be very exact, and you only have 15 minutes to do it. You better have a dough recipe like in your head ready to go. Otherwise, because you
Yeah.
can't be experimenting during this time. You can't be trying to figure out how a dough works.
You're going to find out when it's too late.
Yep.
Like you can experiment all you want, but it's like just wait until you go to like form that or, just it's not going to be okay, which we kind of, we saw a little bit, but
Yeah, yeah. So let's see, talk a little bit about some of the highlights that I saw, some that maybe came to your mind. I like Corwin's confessional. He's like, I make this all the time, should be a layup. Those are always like foreshadowing lines in Top
yeah.
Chef. I don't know how many times I've seen somebody say that and then they don't quite fulfill that, right? They say, "Oh yeah, I make
Yeah.
this all the time." I mean, Zubair was an exception last week, where he killed it on his chicken. But most of the time, I would say it's more the rule than the exception. That when somebody says that, something bad is going to happen. But
Yeah.
Corwin kind of played in the middle. He didn't win, which I think he fully expected to win, but he wasn't there. But he had some really good thought strategies, I thought. He used the pizza oven instead of the regular oven in the fryer where everybody was rushing and you were running out of room. Did you think that was a
Yeah.
smart choice?
Always a smart choice. I feel, it's a balance. I think there were some episodes where I found myself like really veering towards that mentality and like forming a dish around like I know that people are going to be using X, Y, and Z. So like how can I avoid that at all costs, or how can I make it easier for myself? And in that moment, it's easy enough in a quick fire. He's just on his feet, he's pivoting, he's thinking smart. So brilliant. I liked it.
I liked it too. I thought it was a good idea. I think he was the only one using the pizza oven, so he just kind of had free
Yeah.
reign over that. Everybody was rushing to fryers, rushing to ovens. Let's talk about some other people that
Yeah.
had some problems with the dough. So Kat clearly had some issues with dough. Caesar had some issues with dough. What was going on with them? From a chef's mind, what did you see was happening that you're like, yeah, this is not going to end well for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's comes down to texture, right? And it's all about the ratios, and you're put into this constraint, and when you're in that mentality and you're just trying to fix things, you're just adding, right? Like you're like, oh, let me do a little this, little that, whatever. And that's what you have to do. Like at a certain point, you can't be like, well, let me get out my scale and start from the beginning. So I totally get that. But I mean, for me, the thing that stands out the most, to be honest, is Kat's reaction when it's going up and it's just like, I know it's not good or what, just different things like that. Like the feeling that you're experiencing whenever you're watching this thing kind of crumble.
Mm.
No pun intended, right? Or not, whatever. I think that like that's tough to watch. But yeah, I mean, it's just coming down to like, especially when you're trying, God, how many are there still right now? 13?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you're trying 13 of these like side by side by side by side by side, like those, the problems stick out a lot, and like the beautiful, like the texture of those patty, like whatever, it really sticks out if it's a hit or a miss. So it kind of sucks for them. But in
Yeah.
Massimo, yeah.
Yeah, Massimo. Let's talk about grinding oxtail. I don't think that was a
Yeah.
good idea. Obviously, it looked rough. Like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a reason you don't grind oxtail, right? I mean, it's.
I've never heard of it. Yeah, there, it's certain things happen. Our season was like stuffed gnocchi, right? Like you've never heard of it. So it's like,
Yeah.
man, not that you can't do it, but
Probably a general rule of why people don't.
yeah.
But yeah, his was rough looking, and the final product looked kind of bad. I mean, it wasn't really well made in terms of like the actual meat patty or the Jamaican patty. It looked rushed.
Yeah.
I think he's clearly, I don't think he's made these before, and it kind of showed.
Yeah.
But he owned up to it.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. It was like I was having a fight with the meat grinder, and the way the meat just kind of clogged up that grinder. I was like, yeah, you're doing something wrong there, buddy. But
yeah, he had a hard time this episode.
yeah. I mean, it went wrong for him a lot. Tristan's, I thought, was interesting. He kind of had like this open-faced meat pie. Like it wasn't a traditional meat pie. Do you think his met the kind of requirements of the challenge, or it looked more like a tart, like a meat tart kind of thing?
Not really. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's something that I think I'd be scared to do for that reason alone. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to disqualify yourself. I think there's a layer of being like inventive, and you're being different, and everyone's doing savory, so I'm going to give you something sweet. Like that's an example, right? But like this right here is a little borderline. Like it would make me nervous to take that risk.
Yeah, I mean, because the purpose of the Jamaican meat pie, and every culture has this type of dish. It's to eat it on the go, eat it in your hand. You can easily walk and eat with it, but I don't think you could do that with his. Now it looked good, so I'm not knocking what he put up. It looked good. I just don't think it met the requirements of the challenge. I don't think it was truly a meat pie. So I don't know. Lana's Krabby Patty. So somebody likes SpongeBob. I thought that was cute.
I think she's the funniest.
Yeah, and I was like, I feel old, because she's of the age where she probably was, kind of influenced by SpongeBob. It was like watching it on the regular, coming up with Sponge, growing up with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so old right now watching this show. But it's cute. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. I think I really like Lana's personality, and like everything from like her outfits to like just like her little like one-offs and like the things that she says. She's funny. She's like, I enjoy watching her.
It was fun.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the winner. Your draft pick, your number one draft pick, Tatiana, kills it, wins $10K. This doesn't have to share it with anybody. There's no team, so that's all hers. Her patty was
a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
A lot of money. Yeah.
I know, right? And she said, I want to take my kid to Disneyland. I'm like, well, there it goes, $10K gone.
Yeah, right. You're halfway there.
Yeah, Disneyland is not cheap anymore. But she made a toasted nori and sesame dough, which sounded fantastic. I mean, I love nori and sesame, and to throw that into a dough, genius. I mean, just a lot of great flavor in that. The filling was sweet potato, roasted kimchi, and bacon. I mean, everything's better with bacon, or we can't go wrong with that.
It sounds so good.
It does. It looked great. It looked really great. Another standout patty, I thought, Vinny with the classic kind of chopped cheese.
Cheese.
That one with a bottle of hot sauce right there next to it. Bold choice. I thought it was really good.
I like it. I feel like it's for someone who's shown a lot of refinement, it's kind of like, I don't know, it gives me the vibe of like a guy that lives and works in the city, or like
Yeah.
I can do both, a little high low.
Yeah, he's like, look, I can do tweezer food, but I can also do some rustic food. So it
Yeah,
did show me kind of his all around skill that he
yeah,
can make, the people's food, but also make something that would go on a $500 tasting menu.
yeah.
So good job for him. Good job for him. But yeah, Katiana wins 10K for her Jamaican patty. So overall, any other patty stood out to you that you would definitely walk around the city and eat?
Honestly, Katiana, that one was like just like the flavors. Like I can imagine the way it smells.
Yeah,
Like it. I was really that was my fave.
yeah,
I also just liked like the little bit of drama. I guess just like it. This is a good start to the episode for me.
yeah. What
Yeah,
what else? What other drama stands out to you?
I don't know. I get to be honest, just like them, and maybe drama's the wrong word. The dramatics, or like them walking in and them like getting to choose, and like the
Oh yeah.
patty. Like I just really appreciated. Sorry, there's drama later, I guess, but I'll use that word when it's more appropriate. But just like everything about this whole episode, like the theme and the rink and everything, I'm
Hmm.
all for it.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for it. So
Yeah, really leaning
yeah,
into that elimination challenge too with the ice rink there in
yeah,
the middle of the table. Yeah, I thought it
cute.
was I thought it was a fun challenge. The elevator music there in the break and that transition I thought was really funny. I was like, that is hilarious. Just this like
Yeah.
muzak transition in the middle. All right, so let's talk about the elimination challenge. So the elimination challenge is really cool. Cool. Make a dish best served cold. Needs to be served with ice, on ice, but it has to be served cold. So initially, kind of, what are your thoughts on that? Did you was that like, whoa, that's going to be different? Like, I don't normally do this sort of thing. So, kind of, what were you thinking about that challenge parameter?
To be honest, I thought not that like I think any of them were like easy, right? We're not there, we're not doing it. This is one that I would be like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, like we have to make
Yeah.
a cold dish, and you're gonna like obviously like throwing in the terms and like here's your secret ingredient, and you have to like, whatever. You're just giving someone kind of a random ingredient and telling them to make a cold dish. Like that's pretty easy in terms of like Top Chef challenges, like we're not having to discuss like, again, I can only relate it to our experience, but like the
Sure.
duality of Frank Lloyd Wright
All right.
architecture. Do you know what I mean? Like that's so cerebral. Like I feel like this, and they're gonna probably do things like that, but like that was our fourth episode, so it's like
Oh,
pretty
that's
early
right.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some people thought it was a sleeper, so you may not remember, but I I
Yeah.
think that like that's hard, right? This
Yeah.
seemed pretty straightforward to me.
I agree with you there. Thinking about your season, what was the third challenge in your season?
Cheese Fest,
Cheese Fest. Okay, was
Croquette
that
Fest.
the Croquette Fest? That's right. That's right. But yeah,
Yeah,
your fourth challenge early on was that Frank Lloyd Wright duality challenge, which is very. You had a lot of cerebral challenges on your season. The chaos one, which I think a lot of people were really confused on, and then the Frank Lloyd Wright one. So
yeah,
yeah, I think you're right. This one, make a cold dish. Like, okay, that can't be
yeah,
all that hard. What I thought was interesting were the hockey terms. I didn't realize that there were so many food related hockey terms. Um,
yeah,
I grew up in Michigan, so I did my bit of backyard ice skating as a kid, and hockey, playing hockey with the neighborhood kids and stuff. And I was familiar with biscuit, like put the biscuit in the basket, put the puck in the goal. But all these other ones, like assist is an apple.
yeah,
A shot that should have been stopped is a muffin. Game ending in zeros, eggs. That makes sense. When the goalie's unable to stop an easy shot is a grapefruit. Tape wrapped around the end of a hockey stick is a licorice knob, and a shot puck that hangs in the net for a second is peanut butter. That's crazy. Like, so many foodie terms for hockey. Big hockey. Are you a big hockey fan at
I
all?
I know I'm so out of like my depths here. I was laughing, wondering like, again, I know nothing about hockey, so this is an actual question. Is like, how many of these are like general terms that really are used all the time? And how many of these were like, we need two more ingredients, guys? Come on. Have you ever heard someone say once, maybe, like I don't know for sure. But I don't watch hockey at all. I think it's fun when there's fights that happen. But
Yeah,
that's what I know
right.
about hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like I said, I played hockey as a kid in Michigan, but once I moved to Georgia, I mean, hockey's not a very popular sport down below
Yeah.
the Mason-Dixon line, so not a whole lot of hockey being played. And so, if you're a diehard hockey fan listening to this, put it in the comments. Are how many of these are legit? I mean, they got to be legit. It's being said by a gold medal winning hockey player, but how much of this
That's
is
true.
used
Yeah.
in the vernacular, like on the daily? So I don't know.
On the day to day.
No, that's not real.
But looking at the different terms and what they mean, who did you think, as they were picking these, who did you think kind of maybe got lucky in terms of what they got, and then how many are like, oh, they're screwed? Did you think?
I mean, I don't know. I think like to me, peanut butter, I feel like I'm going more off of just like what I personally would and wouldn't want, right? Like, I think peanut butter is hard because peanut butter, like, if you're like, okay, I have to do something cold with peanut butter, you're kind of immediately thinking dessert. I feel like it would box you in a little bit. Not that you have, right? Like, that's obviously not what you have to do. But that would box me in. And I think the licorice root, just in general, like we saw there are issues, but that would have been something that's like, eggs are pretty standard. I think grapefruit, apple, these are all pretty like, oh, I can make a cold dish with that. Licorice root to me would just be more of like an unknown.
Yeah, personally, I hate the flavor of licorice. I can take fennel in small doses. I do like
Yeah.
anise, which is weird, but I don't like black licorice flavor. Like, I just
Yeah.
don't like it. So when I saw that, I was like, I feel bad for Katiana and who had that? Who else had that one? Caesar. Yeah, Caesar
Yeah.
had the licorice knob, and I was like, how do you make licorice not overpower every single thing on a
Well,
dish?
apparently it's really easy.
Yeah, I know. After watching him, like, what was I afraid of? But
Yeah.
Katiana seemed to really embrace it and knock it out of the park. So I mean, good job for her.
Yeah.
We'll talk about her dish here in a minute. At first,
Yeah.
I thought eggs. Whoever got the eggs was easy because you can incorporate that into anything. But then, other than breakfast, you don't really think of egg as a star player on a dish. You kind of think of it as a supporting player. So I thought Tristan's was genius doing the shattered deviled egg and making it the star and
Yeah.
making that part, the yolk part, in liquid nitrogen. I thought that was very inventive. And I don't know what it is about deviled eggs. Like, I can eat maybe one or two boiled eggs at the most in one sitting, but you put a platter
Yeah.
of deviled eggs in front of me and I can like pound 10 of those things. I don't know what
Stop.
that is.
Stop. I actually like, I hate to say this. I'm not a big deviled egg fan. I'm literally in the South, and it's like I'm worried me saying that out loud. I'm like, are the doors locked?
It's basically a food group, so watch what you say next.
I know. So I don't eat a lot of deviled eggs, but I did think, I was like, wow, that is so smart. I was like, it's inventive, it's pretty, it's classic in the way that like these flavors, go together. So you're not like taking a chance, not that you're not taking a chance, but like you're not like making it harder, but like you're taking all the risks that are worth taking, in my opinion, and like in that challenge.
Yeah,
So that
and
was good.
Tristan doing that, it really made the egg the star of the dish, and his plate looked
Yeah.
fantastic
Yeah.
there at the end. Anya, again, with the foreshadowing, cold is my elements. This is what I do, right? And then it just didn't, right? So last week, she really nailed it with bringing the edible pine cones from home and using it in a way that made sense, that was inventive, that was creative. And I think she thought, oh, they like that, so I'm just going to do more of it. And then she tried to pull in more of her regional ingredients, that sea buckthorn powder, just really backfired on her. And once she started going downhill, she just didn't know how to pivot. Like, she couldn't figure out a way to dig out of the hole. What do you think was happening there? What do you think was going through her mind as she was trying to just make this thing that clearly didn't want to be made and just forcing it?
I agree with everything you just said. I think it was kind of like an overcorrect, not an, maybe not an overcorrection, but like, when you get praise and you're like, oh, cool, then I'm going to do that again. I think there can be a weird imbalance. It's always about the balance of like, how do I showcase myself? How do I adhere to the challenge? How do I make it unique? But how do I make sure it's solid? And so all these things coming into play, I feel like she did get a little praise for the pine cone, and it's inventive, and it's also showcasing her talent and where she's from. she probably got a little, not, I don't know, cocky is the right word, but like comfortable, like, oh, I can do this. Like, here I am saying this is an easy challenge. She's from Russia. She's like, I can do this. This is my element. Um, and sometimes in those situations, you're just not already like thinking from the right place. Like you're not on your toes. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely just feel like it was a classic kind of episode, right? Like this is someone's primed for something, it's theirs to lose, and here we go. I guess just to be honest, I'm kind of bummed that the ladies are struggling a lot. I feel like the ladies are struggling a lot
Yeah, I am noticing that too.
early. Yeah.
Especially with this episode and early on, right? You saw Paula kind of having some issues with her elimination
Yeah.
dish. It was Paula, right? They said it was bland. Like that's tough to hear, right? And then
Yeah.
there's too much. She's having a saucing issue. I think she had an issue with sauce in the last week's challenge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, hopefully we
It's
can
hard.
make a pivot. But one thing that I noticed with Anya was like it was just the worst tunnel vision I think I've ever seen on a chef on Top Chef. Like
Yeah.
she could not think of anything else. Like it's not working. I got to do something else. And that's part of that skill set you got to bring into Top Chef, right? Is the ability to pivot when you see something going
Yeah.
wrong and you have time to fix it or go do something else. But she was just forcing this cookie to be made and forcing this ice cream to be made. And it just got worse and worse and worse.
Oh, that was hard to watch, Mama.
It kind of
Remaking it.
Yeah,
Like, remaking it is a choice.
Yeah, remaking it on day 2, right? Just
Yeah.
starting over as if day 1 didn't happen. And when she said she was going to start over on day 2, I'm like, yeah, you're cooked. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done. I don't know if you're a comic book movie fan, but this sort of reminded me of Thor Ragnarok versus Thor Love and Thunder. Have you seen those movies? Are you a big fan of those?
I know what you're talking about.
It's like, Taika
But,
Waititi did a really good job on Thor Ragnarok, adding some humor, and we all loved it. And then he thought, you know what, I'm going to do more of that. And then Thor Love and Thunder happened, and it was not great. So Anya was really kind of doing that as well.
Okay.
You know,
Leaning in
so
too hard.
leaning in too hard to what people
Yeah.
like, but not learning the lesson of why did people like it? Because it fit well. It made sense. You did something inventive with it, as opposed to pouring a whole bag of sea buckthorn powder in your cake and hoping it would work.
Yeah.
So
And those quick decisions. I think that happens to everybody, but that was something. Watching her do that, I was like, that wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
Like it just was so not necessary. Like that's probably the last way I would have used that powder. And I guess if I'm being honest, I would have expected, because she brought the powder.
Mhm.
So for me, it's like you kind of like killed yourself with your own sword. Like it's like
Right.
you not only like that powder was in your bag, it took room, you took that instead of something else. But I think it's more about like do the research on that. Like if you're bringing that as one of your ingredients, you have to know like here's when I would use it.
And what's in it? What's it gonna do to my cake if I put it in?
Yeah, I think you would have a game plan for like if I do need to use this for a cake, I've looked up X, Y, and Z. Or, it's this much water to the ratio to get it to do blah blah blah. Like I just feel like that surprised me. I don't know.
Yeah. And the guest judge, I forgot his name, was saying, she was trying so hard to incorporate her regional ingredients, she forgot essentially what the challenge was about and what she was trying to do. So
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with that more. I thought that was exactly the right way to describe that.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, we have Zubair, who's like, I'm not making any effing muffins. said by a man that has immunity.
Yes. And I mean, I guess when one of the guest judges was like, if you told me that was a muffin, I'd be like, what? And it's like, yeah. I kind of hate the immunity for that reason sometimes,
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I don't remember a challenge in recent memory where somebody had immunity and they were just going to like phone it in. I've seen team challenges right after an immunity where they're like, okay, give me the hardest thing that you think is to be done because I have immunity, so I'm safe, so I can screw up on that, and the rest of you will be fine.
Yeah.
And they kind of use it as like that sacrificial thing to save somebody else from making something hard. But I've never seen somebody just like thumb their nose at a challenge just because they have immunity.
Yeah, I think that like in our season, the general sentiment was like anytime somebody was like, no, I have immunity, like I only have 14 dishes I get to make on Top Chef, best case scenario, you know? So like, or elimination challenges. So it's like, why would I throw one away? And not that you know, totally intentionally did that, but it's just like, it feels like more of an opportunity to go crazy,
Hmm.
right? Like, why wouldn't I do something wild that they'll remember and like, that was kind of weird. And like, it didn't really work. It was the worst dish we had today. Thank God you have immunity. Like, don't try that again. You know?
Yeah.
Not
And
that that's what you want, but
right, right. But we talked about one of the rules of Top Chef is don't make anything for the first time. I think when you have immunity, that's the best time to do something for the first time. Like if you really wanted to try something and just swing for the fences, do it when you have immunity.
yeah.
I wouldn't have done this of I'm not gonna muffin. I'm above muffins. I'm not gonna make a muffin. Like that's kind of how I felt Zubair was doing. Not that I think that
Yeah.
not that I know that that was his mindset, but that's just the way it was cut and edited and the way he sounded.
Yeah. I think I would have been so excited to get muffin.
Oh yeah, what would you have done?
Oh, man, I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't have an answer, but I'm like, let's save it for the pros. I just feel like I guess I just got really excited when I was hearing Massimo talk about like his salted muffin ice cream or what, all these different like those words to me were like, ooh, it sounds good.
Yeah. So what would you have? I mean, not that you would have chosen a thing; it was a surprise. But what kind of cold
Yeah,
dish would you have made with any of the ingredients that was presented there?
I would have gone dessert all the way.
Sure.
Yeah, I honestly would have loved to have egg. And I would have loved to do dessert. I think Schwei, the way that he went with the, it'll be a meringue and a creme anglaise and all these things. I One of my favorite desserts is a floating island. Um, and I did a version of that for the Quickfire with Christina Tosi. So it's like essentially you make like a creme anglaise and it's kind of, it's called a floating island because you have like a shallow plate and you pour the creme anglaise down. Think like it looks like a soup, right? It's very thin, but then you have usually it'll be a quenelle or something, and it's a meringue that you poach. And you can poach it in milk or whatever, but when you put it in this water and then you flip it halfway through, it holds its shape and it's kind of like a little cloud. And so it's like egg in the sauce, egg there. You usually will do like a spun sugar for texture, but it's like this really creamy, decadent, soft dessert that's kind of famous and it's kind of old school. But I think I would have done like a floating island and I would have like tried to throw in, I know I already did that, right? But just for me, that would have been my direction of like, how can I add more like chilled things like in the bottom and all these, I don't know. That's what I would have tried to do.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. So Massimo took a nasty spill, spilled soap
Oh my God.
all over his table, and he's sharing his
Yeah.
workstation with Zubair, which is like Zubair's like Hurricane Massimo coming through or Earthquake Massimo coming through.
I
But
know.
yeah, I mean, I can imagine the Top Chef kitchen, as big as it is just like any other kitchen. You're going to have slick floors. You're going to have like fat that from the fryer falling on the floor, and it
Yeah.
gets pretty you got to watch your safety, just like if you're in a regular kitchen at work, right?
Yeah, I mean, even more so because you have people running around like crazy, right? Like at work, like usually, I'm sure people are in an urgent state, but like in the Top Chef kitchen, I feel like it's way more dangerous.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I
Yeah,
mean, looked like he was okay, but looked like it hurt too.
yeah. It's those night
So,
cooks. It reminds me our season, we had a night cook, and that's when
oh, that's right.
Dan fell
Yeah, yeah, that's
and
right.
Laura.
That's right. A lot of
I know.
falls, a lot of pratfalls happening there in the Top Chef kitchen. So let's get to the dinner service part. So again, leaning into the theme of ice skating, and they have the plastic kind of ice skating rink. I don't know if are you an ice skater at all? Have you?
I
No.
have skated on ice. Yeah,
Yeah, I've skated
before.
on ice, and I felt like I've done pretty good. But then a couple of years ago, we went to visit my grandkids, and they had like a plastic ice skating rink set up somewhere, like in the city center. And I was like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
I could do this. And that plastic is not ice. It does not behave the same way as ice does, and I'm just like
Yeah.
all over the place.
Oh
So good
no.
to see that nobody slipped on that. But let's talk through some of the dishes. Vinny came up first, and his looked great. He had a strawberry kind
Yeah.
of play on a strawberry shortcake. That little tweel thing on top was
Yeah.
very high end looking. But once they got through the looks, they said it kind of tasted like a basic strawberry shortcake. There wasn't anything, memorable or that
Yeah.
popped. So it was kind of one of those things that looked great but tasted basic. What'd you think?
I thought it was beautiful. I love the break the ice, right? A good pun.
Yeah.
A lot of puns this episode. I thought it was great, but yeah, I mean, I guess I just for someone that did like chopped cheese and like the Jamaican patty, that was like pretty inventive and I guess I just thought, he knows that he can nail like the beauty of that dish and that's why he did it and it looked flawless. Like those tuiles and stuff, if it's not perfect, it doesn't look that good, right? Um, but I was just like the easy part to me would be throwing in a random ingredient just to spice things up or like to make it more unique. I feel like he did all the hard stuff.
Hmm. But then
So I don't know.
forgot to punch up the flavor of the food though.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. It's like he for like within those time constraints, like he did so many other things that I think can take more skill that like why didn't you just like add one thing to make it more unique? But again, like not tunnel vision, but just like when there's that much going on, it happens.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Massimo had an interesting take at I think at judges table. He was saying he tried to make ice cream, but
Hmm.
he didn't. And then he just kind of said that. It's like, yeah, that was supposed to be ice cream, but it melted. And I think that one thing on Top Chef, you try not to admit your mistakes right up front, because even Tom
Yeah.
was saying you could have just called this a creme anglaise and we wouldn't have known the difference, right? So
Yeah.
was that a mistake on his part? Should he have not admitted to his shortcomings right there at the beginning?
The thing is, like, just up front, own it till the end. Like, walk out there and be like, I don't think that you bullshit anybody, right? Like, if
Hmm.
you look at Tom and he's like, if he asks you, did you want this to be a sauce? And then you say, yes, chef, that was my plan the whole time. That's bad. Like you should, I feel like, but don't bring it up, ask for forgiveness, not permission, whatever they say. So I would have owned it when I walked to the table. I mean, that's literally what I did in the finale.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
when we talk about it later, you just own up to it and you tell them what happened because later they're going to ask more questions. He could have
Yeah.
reserved some of that.
Yeah, I thought so too. Is like,
Yeah.
like what you're saying, don't lie or don't BS, but also don't expose yourself unnecessarily, kind of,
Yeah.
and just kind of let things fall where they are. But to come right out and say, yeah, this is what it was supposed to be, but it's not. It just lingers there in the judge's mind of, oh, this
Yeah.
wasn't what it was supposed to be, as opposed to letting them trying to figure it out and see
You're losing
what they did.
confidence.
Yeah, like you're losing confidence in your own cook.
Yeah.
So any particular dishes before we get to the top and bottom that stood out to you?
I mean, I think, I mean, it's hard to, it's the, I mean, I think making soba noodles, it was pretty impressive. Like,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
that's what I'll say. Across the board, I mean, I feel like Lana, when you are put against somebody who is in the top or the bottom, it's easy to fall into the middle, right? I feel like she's someone who has fallen into the middle consistently, and we're not like seeing a ton from, but I did love that she got the shout out about like, oh, this is obviously like a peanut butter soup. Where
hmm
especially in comparison to Paula, who like didn't have enough flavor or was too saucy or like just the composition, like I feel like there were several things wrong. I just liked Lana's dish this week. It kind of stood out to me.
yeah. For me, I think it was Tristan's dish that stood out for me because I'm just a huge fan of deviled eggs, so I just would have
Yeah.
loved that. But Katiana's doing cold soba noodles was just like exactly what this challenge was for. I mean, it was
Yeah.
perfect in every way. One thing that I really identified with what she said is, being adopted, that she didn't have a lot of memories of Korean food. Like she learned Korean food from her, in-laws and her husband,
Yeah.
which I identify with. Like as a Filipino, my mom came to America as an immigrant. I was born in the States, but then we stayed here. And I grew up in Michigan and not a lot around Filipino people. My mom didn't really cook a lot of Filipino food. So, Midwest, a lot of goulash, a lot of, chili,
Yeah.
a lot of, quote unquote white people food. So I didn't have a lot of working memory of Filipino food growing up until I moved to Georgia, and my whole family our diaspora family moved to Georgia. So going to my grandma's house every Sunday for dinner, I'm now being exposed to Filipino food, and I didn't know what a lot of this stuff was. And I'm the only one in my family that doesn't speak Tagalog, so I'm going to my family's house, and I need an interpreter. Like, I'm just the worst Filipino. But as
You're bringing the goulash to
yeah,
the family function.
no kidding, right? What is
No.
this? Trash it. But
That's really cool.
yeah, so I had, the first time I had Dinaguan was in Savannah from my grandma, and then moving to Jacksonville, large Filipino community here, Filipino population, really digging into that Filipino culture. So clearly identified with Katiana on this one. It really made me kind of endeared herself to me as like, man, I'm the same way, not adopted, but I understand, not knowing your culture until into your adulthood. And then really embracing it like she did. And this cold soba noodle dish it was just the perfect representation of her story through this whole episode, which I thought was fantastic. So Kat was the winner. I think clearly head and shoulders above the others, although Corwin and Tristan had some really good dishes to compete with that. So on the bottom, we have, I don't think it was any surprise, Anya, Paula, Massimo. Anya, we talked about kind of her downward spiral that's going to continue in LCK when we talk about that in a minute. Paula was called bland and too saucy, which you don't want to hear bland on Top Chef. That's rough. And then Massimo, we just talked about Massimo talking about, not calling it creme anglaise and owning up to his mistakes, but good on him for owning it and saying, I never really had performance issues before, and everybody's chuckling. I'm like, Massimo, this is a family show, man. Tone it down.
It was the fun. I mean, I'm literally like, Kevin is on the show. Like, it's that archetype. You know what I mean? Like, that's so who that character is to me. No, he's really silly. And there was a moment where I'm like, I don't want you to stop talking because you're hilarious, but like, shut up. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to stay. Like, stop talking. Like,
shut up and cook, man. Like, we get it. You're funny. You're a handsome dude. We get that.
I don't want him to talk himself out. You know what I mean? And be like, I messed up. Blah blah. Or we'd be like, no, keep it hidden. Keep it hidden.
Yeah. So, can you imagine him and Kevin if they were on the same season? Like, what would that be like? Him, Kevin, and Manny on the same season.
I can't tell if him and Kevin would love each other or hate each other. Like there's only one person with the hair. Like, we can't both be here. Yeah.
The Top Chef is not big enough for both of them in the same season. That would be nuts.
I know.
Hilarious. So Anya, I think, was the right person to go home between the three of those. I mean, Massimo just had melted ice cream, but it tasted great. But Anya, I think all around, I don't think anything on her dish worked. Anything on her plate worked. The cake didn't work. The ice cream didn't work. Nothing worked. I don't think there's anything that could save her, unfortunately. So, right call?
It looked, I mean, it sucked too, like seeing the plate. It was just like interesting. You know what I mean? It kind of looked like a plate that you like, I don't know. It looked like it had sat forever, but it was like, they really don't sit that long. So it was pretty melted. Yeah.
It was pretty bad. And I don't know if you heard when she was making the plate, but when that cake hit the plate, the audible clank it made when it landed on the plate, I was like, oh,
I have to go back and listen.
Yeah. I was listening with headphones on this morning. So I don't know if I just heard it more because of that, but good job on the sound direction, because she was like, yeah, this cookie or this cake is so hard. And I don't think it's going to work. And then the moment she puts it on the plate, it goes clink. I was like, oh no.
Well, it's like an ice puck or hockey puck or whatever.
Definitely was that. So she gets eliminated. We goes to LCK. Wow, a lot to talk about in this little 15-minute LCK episode, right? So we top it off with Samuel walking out. He quits. He's like, Top Chef isn't for me. And I don't know if it was the pressure that got to him or if he just felt like, I just can't cook under these conditions type of thing. Kalina from your season kind of had the same type of issues. She kind of walked out due to mental health issues. So, Samuel didn't outright say that, but what are your thoughts there?
I mean, honestly, Rich, like, I feel like I don't think these situations are exactly the same, right? So I'm talking about Samuel, last night in LCK. I don't know the contributing factors. I think It's definitely hard to go on there and say, "Hey, I'm leaving." My number one thought is like, when did Tom get so soft? Because it, like he's came up in these kitchens. He's been in New York, like whatever, these big cities. You don't like, I changed my mind. I don't know. I just think that there's a layer. With Kalina, I think that she had like gone through it. Now she's back and she's like, yo, I just went through Restaurant Wars. I was the head chef. I got eliminated in Restaurant Wars after coming back through LCK, random contestant. Now you want me to do it again. You know, I do think it's a little bit different. For Samuel, it's like, man, you haven't even made it into the competition yet. It irks me. There's somebody potentially that like may have taken that spot and fought harder. In my honest opinion, I think it's a little bit of a waste of a space, and like that kind of bums me out.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I thought the same. Like Kalina was clearly a different issue. Like you could see that she kind of was
Yeah.
broken down by the end of it, which at the
Yeah.
timing that she came back when she got eliminated at first and then came back again, that's a lot, right? Samuel,
Yeah.
dude, you've done 2 cooks on LCK, literally nothing. You've done nothing. Um, and I'm not in his shoes, so I can't say, but it did to me feel like, yeah, it almost was like I should have been in the main competition. Like, how dare you put me in LCK and make me fight for it? Kind of things. Like, it's just not for me. It's just not for me. I'm not going to do it anymore. So I'm walking out.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. That is a slot that was wasted on Samuel that could have gone to somebody that was willing to fight through it. It kind of, and it's really funny that this challenge was about Tom's hats because it reminded me of David Murphy from your season. He made fun of
Mhm.
Tom's hats, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
he disappeared. But I feel like David Murphy got kicked off the show because he was a little mouthy. I don't know if he just like offended Tom, and Tom's like, I'm not going to look at him for 13 more Top Chef episodes or whatever. But I don't think David Murphy was very grateful for his position of being in Top Chef, and
Yeah.
he was never mentioned again, like never mentioned. And then Sue, when I interviewed Sue, he was really cagey about it. What do you know?
Yeah.
I've been dying to
Uh,
know since season 21.
I will never. I guess we'll never know, Rich. I don't know.
Oh, come
I,
on. You,
I, I think that what I can say is that I agree with you. That I think that it seems like um a wasted opportunity,
yeah.
and it's not about someone's cooking. It's about their gratitude, and like, and that's what I'll say on that. I can't.
You
But
look,
anyways,
you are off the shackles of your PR handlers now. Like you are
and that's
free. Your
never
NDA has
true.
got to be expired, right? Your NDA is
No.
expired, right?
What if it's like the truth is like, yeah, you can't talk about Tom's hats. Like it's actually very dark. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But wait, you saying that? I'm not that I'm changing the topic, but the Easter eggs of like, oh, now we're looping it back here to here to here. It is a little interesting. They might
Yeah.
be hinting at a darker undertone. I don't know, but the whole Sam thing, the Tom part of it that really gets me is that when he tells him, I'm waiting for Tom to be like, what are we doing? Like, can we start the clock? Like, the shift started 20 minutes ago. Like, okay, then go. Like, I don't know.
Right.
But Tom's been very like, okay, well, thank you. You've done a great job. I really appreciate it. But have you ever noticed that the second he says, okay, like, thank you, like, this is what I'm supposed to say, you get the drone shot, whatever, of this guy walking out. Tom's face is like,
Yeah. So, because I gotta wonder. Clearly, well. I don't want to say clearly. It looked like it wasn't planned because Tom really did have a genuine surprised look on his face, and then having to rework the challenge like on the spot. I really think that caught him by surprise.
I'm sure it was like Tom did not know that was happening until maybe 5 minutes before they did that, right?
Mm, mm.
That's what my guess would be, because I think if you sent Tom in there with no idea, he'd be like, he's gonna take his thing out and be like, "What's going on?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think,
What are we doing here?
yeah, he'd be like, "We have this kitchen for 2 more hours. Like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
But I do think, yeah, I don't know. I guess I just feels like unnecessary drama to me. Like, I'm just like, okay, like, can we get back to the show? Like, what's happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah. As soon as Samuel walked out, I'm like, can we bring Ying back? Can we bring her back? Let's bring her back.
Talk about missed opportunity. I know. I thought maybe he was going to give her that chance, but
Yeah, I guess not. It's a
it's
shame.
okay.
It's a shame. All right, so we digress. Let's talk about the challenge. So
Yeah.
hockey is somewhat hockey related, talking about a hat trick. So it's 3 goals in a game. So they showed all the Tom's hats, which was really funny. So they have 45 minutes. Initially, there was going to be no time, which I would have been interested to see how that would have played out in LCK.
Yeah.
Like no time on the clock ever. Like where's the pressure now? So
Yeah.
45 minutes. It seemed like to cook as many dishes as you could. Although both Bailey and Anya was like, okay, I got to make 3 dishes. That gives me 15 minutes per dish. But really, in this type of challenge, do you do that? Try to make 3 good dishes to get 3 points in a row, or do you try to do like shots on goal, make as many dishes as you can as quickly as possible? 3 of those have got to score. So what would have been your approach to this?
Again, like I think I would have tried to approach it with a little bit of both mentalities, right? Like I would have gone in there with like 1 or 2 things that I'm like, I'm going to invest more time in this. Like I'm inherently going to spend more time. This is going to be more refined. These are things that I'm like pretty solid, like I can guarantee your points. And then I think I would have thrown in like, and I say this now, right? I'm like, I would have done 8 things. Probably not. Like it's probably not how it would have shaken out. But I think that I would have thrown in like ideally 3 or 4 things that I'm just throwing at the wall. Like I'm gonna
Mm.
dress this whatever and it's a salad. Or it's like, I mean, again, they did this in our season. They did it with the innings. Like
Yep.
this is
Yep.
Kevin. And I think and somebody else, but I just remember them being like, make a dish, make a dish, make a dish. And like you can win both ways, but I think that you have a higher chance if you're throwing more shots at the goal, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, luckily though, Bailey, she killed it. She killed it in LCK. 3 straight dishes scoring points. So it's kind of not walk through dishes, but it's kind of walk through the point progression. So Bailey and Anya both score on their first dish. Bailey had like this tomato dish, and Anya had this cauliflower soup dish. So they both score. Everybody's looking great. From that point on, Anya was having issue after issue, just
Hmm.
that continued downward spiral. She was cooking really thick pieces of halibut. I mean, thick. Those are some thick boys. And she was pouring salt
Yeah.
straight out of the container, which had me worried because isn't that like Chef 101? Don't do that. Like you put it in your hand
Yeah.
first. And Bailey did that. She put salt in her hand and because you can measure it out if you're pouring it from the container. Like you have no idea how much salt's going in there. And she's
Yeah.
pouring it straight from there. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be too salty, and she's not gonna realize it. But Tom never tasted it because it was raw. You
Yeah.
don't put up raw stuff, right? You don't put up
Yeah.
raw dishes. He didn't even taste it, so no points there. And then Bailey scores on her. I think that was the baked feta dish on the second one. But then the spiral. Poor Anya. Like
I
once she
know.
didn't score on that second dish, she only had like 2 minutes left to go. I think. Which I don't know how she was going to get a third dish up, but now she had to try to make up points with 2 more dishes to try to get 3 points. The second dish was that scallop with just orange juice poured on it, and Tom called it terrible. What was going through your mind as you were watching just this destruction of a chef happening in real time?
You're oh gosh. I'm glad we're being light about it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So dark. You sure you're not from the DC universe?
I know. I think that like it's just again like rookie mistakes, right? But like
Yeah,
that anybody could make whenever shit's hitting the fan. Like,
yeah,
why wouldn't, there's no rule about like the dish has to be this big. You need to give Tom a 10-ounce piece of fish. Like there's no guidelines on that. So why wouldn't you I'm going to go tiny, 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 right? Like I'm going to go
yeah,
small, small, small. Or, why would you like just leave it on long, like, I don't know, cut it in half and then put it back on? Or there's like simple things that like during service, if like you're running behind the time, like you might butterfly a protein or whatever. It's kind of be like hacky shit. But like it just like there's things that that you can do to execute a vision like faster, or there's things that you can do to be less prone to having risks like affect your entire dish. I think in that situation to put up something that's raw is kind of silly because it's like you're rushing something that you chose to make this big. It's just
right.
you're putting yourself, you're making your bed.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you only have that much time, you got to look at what you're doing and be like, you got to be able to think quickly on your feet. And I don't think, I mean, and
Yeah.
I'm saying this as not being a chef, but I'm saying this as a fan. Like, you've got to know better. Like you just got to know better,
Yeah.
in terms of knowing how much time you have left, what you have to cook with. And I'm sure her restaurant obviously is great. But when you're under the time constraints, like Top Chef just exposes so many things, right? It
Yeah.
exposes your weaknesses and just makes them bigger because of the constraints of time and the lack of ingredients or whatever the case is. But you take those and you learn from it and you become a better chef. I love how Tom describes Top
Yeah.
Chef every year, is that you become a better chef by going through this process, by having your weaknesses exposed. And the Top Chef alumni coming out of this just go on. Even if you don't win, you still win because of being on Top
Yeah.
Chef. You learn so much, and you take that with you wherever you go. So. I hope Anya, I mean, she didn't look great on TV this episode, but I hope she, finds that the weaknesses that she can be better on and just get through it. So, I mean, good for her
Yeah.
for being on the show. Did
Yeah.
not look great. Did not look great. But Bailey killing it. I mean, I think what we're saying is right with Bailey. She doesn't have time to overthink, and she's just cranking out these dishes. That lamb dish looked really great. That won her that third point. So she's moving on to the competition. How do you think Bailey's doing so far?
I feel like we might see a little bit of like a rise of Bailey and LCK, but I don't trust her yet. She's been
Mm,
it was a little shaky. It was shaky, and now it's good. It's good. I don't trust her yet. Like it could be next week that something happens, right? And she gets knocked out. She could make it all the way to the end and get thrown back in. And oh look, here's the mirror storyline of like kind of Kristen's
yeah,
season.
yeah.
And not that they would do it on purpose, but like I could see Bailey being that girl. But I don't trust her fully yet. I'm curious to see what happens next week.
Yep. We got a long way to go. Long way
We
to
have a
go.
long way to go. Yeah.
So let's go over our draft points for episode 3, kind of going down the list. Bailey, with her LCK win, gets 2 points. Corwin Henning is in the top 3 of the judges' table, so he gets 3 points. Paula was on the bottom of the judges' table, so -2 points. And Tristan Epps was on the top of the judges' table for 3 points. So for my team, I score a total of 6 points for episode 3. For yours, -2 for Anya for being on the bottom of the judges' table. Katiana with our first sweep of the season. She gets a Quickfire win for 5 points, and for sweeping the elimination challenge, for winning the elimination challenge, she gets 7 points, plus a bonus 3 for sweeping the Quickfire and the elimination challenge in the same episode, scoring 15 points. You got to love how Katiana's performing on your team, right?
I mean, yes. Early on to do that, impressive.
Yeah, a sweep in an episode this early, definitely one to look out for.
Yeah.
And then Massimo gets -2 points for being on the bottom 2. And if I could give points for personality, I would, but I can't. So you have 11 points for the episode. So 11-6, you win this episode. And then total overall score so far through the season, through 3 episodes, it is a score of 48 for Team Savannah and 28 for me. So you are killing me by 20 points. Still, I mean,
My
we got
girl.
yeah, Katiana killed it for you this
Yeah.
episode. Long way to go, though. Like we said, we got about 10 episodes left or so to see if I can make up some ground and see how it comes out at the end. Still anybody's game. The finale, when we get to the finale, there's going to be some big points to be awarded there. So it's still anybody's shot. I'm not quite mathematically out of it yet. But yeah, so I think we did it. We covered episode 3. What'd you think?
I thought it was great. I mean, again, like I love this season so far. I do think there's enough like ups and downs that I'm pretty invested, and I love the different personalities. So for me,
Yeah.
so far it's so great. My team's killing it. I have no complaints.
Awesome. Any predictions for the next episode, do you think?
I mean, I think Katiana is not going to slow down.
Yeah.
I think that she just had to like get her bearings. Like she hasn't really slipped up, it's more about like she didn't come out of the gate immediately like bam bam, but she just like warmed up a little bit, and now I think that we're going to see like this steadily happening.
Yeah, I think she's going to keep her foot on the gas, and I do think it takes about 2 to 3 episodes for people to get their bearings and understand kind of the way Top Chef works. And you know, you can practice all you want, but you don't know until it's game time. And then now it's game time, and I think everybody's gonna start getting comfortable. I think Hot Town is gonna keep moving up. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. We'll cover it again next week. So thank you so much. Where can people follow you and keep up with the goings-ons of Chef Savannah?
The goings-ons. You can follow me on Instagram at SavvySav, SAVVYSAVV.
Awesome. And don't forget to follow me on socials as well at Rich Herrera and at Eat Your Content. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you like what we're doing here, leave a comment, leave a review. Did we get anything wrong? Are our hot takes a little too hot for you? Leave a comment. I'd love to hear from anybody that's listening. Chef Savannah, thank you so much. It's the highlight of my week every week. It's a great time every time.
I can't wait till next week. We'll see what happens.
Thanks for listening to Eat Your Content. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting the podcast through my merch store on TeePublic. Get great quality items like t-shirts, hats, mugs, and more, all sporting the vibrant Eat Your Content logo. Go to teepublic.com/user/eatyourcontent for more great items, and thanks for your support.